Hi class, my name is Cody Dobb. I will be doing case 4 this week, Bowling versus Sperry. This case deals with whether or not a purchasing contract is voidable by a minor if he signs it while accompanied by adults. Just for some background on this case, Larry Bowling was a minor who signed a contract with Mr. Sperry to purchase a car for $140. Mr. Bowling soon after found out that the car had a big problem and it was going to cost him about $95 to fix it. So instead of paying the $95 to fix the car, he decided to disaffirm his contract with Mr. Sperry and drop the car off to Mr. Sperry and expected a $140 refund. Mr. Sperry did not think that this was fair because Mr. Bowling signed the contract while accompanied by his grandma and his aunt. So Mr. Sperry thought that because he was accompanied by two adults, it did not matter whether or not Mr. Bowling was a minor, that those two adults there made the contract valid. So Mr. Sperry took this case to court, and the court ruled in favor of Mr. Bowling, saying that yes, even though there were two adults present with Mr. Bowling, the contract was only between Mr. Bowling and Mr. Sperry. Those were the only two parties involved. So because Mr. Bowling is a minor in that contract is voidable. If the contract would have been signed between one of Mr. Bowling's adults and Mr. Sperry, the contract would not be voidable because they are old enough to sign the contract. So to really understand this, we have to look at what makes a valid contract. You have to have an offer and an acceptance, a meeting of the minds, consideration of the contract. You have to have the ability to sign the contract. You have to have a legal contract. You have to have a contract offered in good faith. And the contract needs to be offered either in writing or it has to be an oral agreement. So this contract met all of those requirements except the ability to sign the contract. Mr. Bowling did not have the ability to sign the contract because he was a minor. Other things that would be cause for a voidable contract are if the contract is signed while someone is intoxicated, while someone is not completely sane. If they're very ill, you're not allowed to sign a contract, so you have to be in the right state of mind, and you have to have the right health and the right age to sign the contract. So that's really what this case comes down to, is that Mr. Bowling was not old enough to sign the contract, and therefore he was able to void the contract because the contract was not valid. But again, if one of Mr. Bowling's adults would have signed the contract for him between them and Mr. Sperry, that contract would then be valid because they meet the age requirement to sign a contract. So in our everyday lives, this really relates because we sign contracts and we offer contracts when we're in the employment field. We have to make sure that these contracts are valid. You hear about contracts that are not offered in good faith, or they're not written or orally agreed upon, and there's just different things that can cause a contract to be invalid, and it can cost lots of money. I mean, this contract cost Mr. Sperry $140 because Mr. Bowling was a minor. Contracts nowadays can cost millions of dollars, so we need to make sure that we do our due diligence and make sure all our contracts are valid and they meet all the requirements of a valid contract so it doesn't cost us lots of money in the long run. Thank you for listening. Have a nice day.